Okay.
Yes, that was me.
Yep, and I just hit record myself, which I tend to forget to do. So good evening, everybody. I'm Anthony Aragon. I'm the Director of Community Engagement and Government Affairs here at the National Western Center, and we are grateful that you all have joined us this evening. It is cold and snowing outside, so I am grateful that we made the decision to be in the comfort of our homes tonight. I don't know about you, but my heater is at 70. And it may get even warmer. We shall see. But I'm glad that everybody's safe and warm. The meeting tonight is going to be translated in Spanish, interpreted in Spanish. And you do have a globe icon at the bottom of your screen, and you do need to select the language of your choice, either English or Spanish. So if everyone can take a moment to do that. And Francisco,
Would you like me?
Yep, if you want to share that in Spanish, I'd appreciate it.
Yes. Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos. Nuevamente estamos aquí en una nueva reunión del Centro National Western y como ustedes saben, estas reuniones son bilingües y hay interpretación al español disponible. Si hace el favor de pulsar en el icono de interpretación, el globito en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla y puede seleccionar el idioma de su preferencia. Muchas gracias.
All right. And I am going to now turn the meeting over to our wonderful facilitator, Catherine Archuleta, and we will get to officially begin tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And if you could see me now, I'm sitting, well, maybe you can see I'm at home and I've got 3 computers in front of me, only one of which is working. So I apologize to you. It's probably doesn't like the cold weather anymore, much like the human beings. So AI is actually as cold as we are. So I prepared a slideshow for the agenda, but I don't have it. I'm not able to pull it up because of my reluctant computers, but I'm gonna just, we'll make do because before computers there were humans, and so we can do all of that together. So I just wanted to remind you that I have joined the team at the National Western Center Authority, and I'm working as your facilitator. I've worked with many of you before. I think I know everybody who's on the call tonight, but just to let you know that I'm here. I'm a native Denverite and worked for several years. Although I don't live in the GES neighborhood, I do work on many of the issues that you're engaged in. I mean, good to see so many of you here tonight, Gail and AE and everybody else, and nice to see all of you. I wanted to remind you of how we work together. And it really is about that participation with respect and trust that we really want to focus on. Really from the NWCA side is really understanding that we're approaching every meeting with that same value of respect and trust. We hope that all of it, everybody on the team will support a willingness to share and to acknowledge that that there is vulnerability in doing that. Also, we want to promote transparency in the information that we share. So as throughout the evening, as you are looking at the material or hearing any updates, that you ask questions and make sure that you're as informed as we can help you be on the issues that we'll be discussing. We really do want to inspire innovation, so your feedback is really important to us. We want to encourage your leadership. You are the leaders of your community. We are here to support the work that you do and to help you engage in the work that we do. We understand that there are political realities in our environment, and those come and they go, and it's up and down, and we're all always living in that small p political reality, and just understand that we acknowledge that the environment we live in, and also that we're really striving for a partnership with community, that we really want, no matter whether it's a nonprofit organization, a campus partner, or a neighborhood organization, and a public entity, we really want to align interests because the National Western Center is really in a community. It sees itself as part of a community. So we need to work together, and the work we do together is really based on relationships. For all of my entire professional career, I've understood that nothing works unless we know each other. And so as a facilitator, I've learned the value of just finding out a little bit more about one another as we proceed through all of our work. So last week, or last month, I asked you a question about yourselves. That I've learned that some of you listen to the radio really, really loud. Some of you listen to different types of music. Others of us ride quietly in our cars, getting away from all of the conversation and perhaps, as we say in Spanish, barulla that surrounds us on a daily basis. But I have a different question for you tonight, and maybe just take a moment to go through everybody down the list, and I'll call on you, is to ask you a question about if you had an extra hour in the day, how would you spend it? Because our calendars are really, really tough, and we don't get to get up or go out very often. But if you had that extra hour, what would it be? How would you spend it? And maybe I'll start with you, Anthony.
I have given this careful thought and consideration, Catherine. And actually, you know what? Thank you. I would actually like to read a book.
Oh, good. I love that. How about you, Slavisa?
Oh, I've given it a lot of thought as well, Anthony, and I definitely take a nap without a doubt. That's what I do.
How about you, Angela? How would you do it?
I would use it to add more sleep because I can't sleep. So that would be great.
How about you, Gail? Hi, Gail.
Hello. I would cuddle with my hubby.
Oh, I love that. How about you, Anne?
I would use it to go for a walk or get some sort of exercise.
How about you, AE?
I can't respond to that, but if anybody wants to have coffee with me for an hour to get to know me at a depth outside the framework of, the uncertainties around here, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, I'll take you up on that. How about you, Brad?
If I had an extra hour in the day, I would probably do something around exercise, stretching and some sort of exercise. Take care of the body.
Yeah. How about you, Fernando?
I would love to say that I will exercise because I'm supposed to be in training, but I'll probably use it to reply to all the emails that I didn't reply because I didn't have an extra hour.
How about you, Jen?
I would try to get outside. I'm terrible about, I sort of rush from meeting to meeting or stay in my house trying to get stuff done, and it would be great to be outside every day. Maybe not today, but usually.
Okay. How about you, Jenna?
I think I would spend the extra time with my little guy. He's 3 now, so he's just growing and changing like crazy every single day. So I would definitely invest that time into him and playing something. I don't know. He's very into tractors and cars and all sorts of stuff. So probably doing something like that.
Jules, how about you?
I would probably cook. I'd cook something that would be fun that I could also freeze for the future.
Oh, we should talk. I love to cook as well.
There we go. I love exchange.
Yeah. How about you, Marcy?
Oh, goodness. I'd like to say I'd exercise,
but I'd probably end up wanting just to maybe watch a show. I don't really get to sit down and watch TV much at all. I'm my children's Uber, so I'm all over the place. So maybe a good show, but I should exercise.
And let's see, Steve, how about you?
I would go for a long walk with my wife and dogs. Give them the walk they deserve.
Oh yeah, we've heard about that dog of yours.
2 dogs.
Okay, did I miss anybody? I don't think I did, but whoever I did, please let me know if I did.
Yeah,
Sandra.
Nora and
Oh, Nora
Spanish
Sandra, yeah.
and Sandra.
and Sandra. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see Sandra's name there. Okay, Sandra, what would you do?
Yo usaría esa hora para salir afuera descalza,
I would
meditar.
use that time to go outside barefoot and do some exercise.
Great.
And to meditate as well. Sorry.
And meditate as well. Good. How about you, Nora?
I would actually I think exercising sounds like a good thing. I mean, the weather's starting, hopefully after this snow, weather is getting better and that gets you going. So yes.
Okay, so we have some outdoor people. We have some people who want some quiet time with the book, maybe with TV. And we have some people who really want to exercise. And then we have someone who wants to keep working. Fernando. All right, so let's move on. I wanted to share with you the agenda that we're going to go through today. And it's fairly simple agenda, but a lot to share with. So we want to move along. We want to have a community update and really share information that's happening in the community that you would like to share with the whole CAC. Please feel free to give us, share any information you have. And also I think Anthony has some he'd like to share. And then we'll have an update from Brad on the National Western Center. And then we'd like to spend some time on the GES director selection process, responding to all the really good ideas you gave us last meeting. So maybe we start with a community update. Is there anybody in the group that has a community update that they'd like to share? Gail or others, Angela, Marcy, Jules, anyone? Sandra?
I do. Hi, I do.
Oh, good.
Okay, so I just want folks to save the date for Earth Day. We are going to have our third, I can't believe it's 3 years, annual Earth Day tree planting celebration in Globeville. So our goal, and we'll be working with Crea as well, as we did for the fall planting. So just want everyone to put that on their list. We're looking for volunteers. We'd love for folks to come out and help. It will be from 9 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. on actual Earth Day, Saturday, I believe April 22nd.
Anyone else? Let me know if I don't see your hand raised. Anthony, would you like to share some information
Sure.
that you have?
I wanted to be mindful if community members had announcements. So I emailed everyone with the agenda. The Washington area program of projects, they're going to be hosting an open house tomorrow from 4:30 to 6:30 at Project Angel Heart. I received an email from Lacey Champion with NETC. They originally had scheduled their GES tolling equity program kickoff for tonight, but they have rescheduled the event due to the weather, and the new date is March 8th at 5:30 p.m. at the Globeville Rec Center. And all of this information that I'm sharing, I will email it to everyone so that you have this information. They sent a flyer with that information. And then I received an email, and some of you probably did as well, but in case you did not, from Arlene with the Swansea Rec Center, wanting to let the community know that they're starting registration for their summer spring activities. and their Summer in the Parks at Swansea Rec Center. And for residents in 80216, remember you get 90% off of scholarships and of memberships and of programs. And they also are going to be hosting a summer camp. And right now that camp costs $630, but for residents in 80216, it costs $63 for your children for the entire summer. And they're already about halfway filled with summer camp registration in February for, I'm not sure when that kicks off. And then finally, they sent me information today. They're going to be hosting a spring event, Welcome to Spring event / Easter event on Friday, April the 7th from 4 to 6 p.m. And so I will make sure that I send all of this information to you via email so that you can have for yourself, or you can share with your friends and neighbors and networks as well. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Any other information that you'd like to share from the community?
Sandra placed an event in the chat.
Okay.
International Women's Day, March 12th from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Versatile venue.
Does everybody know where the Versatile venue is? Sandra, maybe just even an address, or we can send it around too. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Gail. So if there aren't any other community updates, I'd like to turn it over to Brad for an update from the National Western Center Authority.
Thanks, Catherine. Good evening, everybody. A lot to report out and talk about this evening, so I'll try to be concise and brief so we can get into the other main agenda items. Couple of updates around the campus. The Livestock Center broke ground. The ceremony was in December. It really formally started construction here right after Stock Show happened. Stock Show got wrapped up on the 22nd of January. They had over 700,000 people that came to Stock Show, so it was a very successful Stock Show for them. The 51st Avenue Bridge is open, and that is really exciting. We've been working with Dottie about access in on 51st and access out on 52nd. Currently, it's one way when you get past Casa Don Juan. It turns into one way east to come into the campus. But they've added a bike and pedestrian lane there as well. When you come out, it turns north on Emerson, goes north on Emerson to 52nd, and then west on Emerson out to Washington. I also know, and I do not have not heard the dates yet. Maybe you have heard, Anthony. They're going to be improving Emerson between 51st and 52nd. And Anthony, have you heard? Do you know the timing? Have you heard any timing on that yet?
Yeah, they said approximately the week of March 6th, but we have a meeting on Friday to finalize that. And I think Marcy's on the call as well. She has any more recent information, but at our call last Friday, that was what we were told was the week of March 6th.
Marcy, do you have any updates on that? Any other information?
Just maybe a little there. The team will be at the Project Angel Heart meeting tomorrow with some more detailed information, but they still are anticipating that first week of March to start, where they put into about 3 phases of work, which is some improvements on some stormwater improvements on 51st, which means they're putting those large stormwater pipes into the ground, so it's big trenches. It's not just like paving and reconstruction there. They'll do a little bit of work on 51st, some work on 52nd, and then the majority of the work, that stormwater work, will be in Emerson. And the timing on that, they're looking at about 8 weeks to get that all complete. But they'll have some of the details on that piece, I think, at the meeting tomorrow as well. So
great, thank you. Just a quick report out on the second voting board seat for the authority. That the final vote from the authority happened last Thursday at the board meeting, unanimous in favor. Just it was a fast topic because there was unanimous support from all the partners and city and CSU and Stock Show and all the board members. So the next phase, there are some documents that get signed by the city or by CSU, Stock Show, and the authority. Those are being routed now, and then it'll go into the city council process. And Anthony, can you give everybody the highlight dates that we've got for that process? Do you have that?
I do, yes. And again, just again to reiterate, the partners and just moving this process forward. And I do want to just acknowledge Jen Wellborn from the city, who wears many hats, but was instrumental in helping the authority and the partner CSU, the Stock Show, and obviously the city move this process forward. And again, just thank you to the community, because this really was a community-led conversation when we began discussing, adding another or adding and changing the GES directors to 2 voting members and not 1 voting and 1 non-voting. So the great news is the amendment, the framework agreement amendment, is going to be presented at and rather than just give you an acronym, I'm going to say it's the Land Use, Transportation, and Infrastructure Committee, better known as LUTI. That will be presented in committee on March 14th. And then once it goes out of committee, then it goes it's presented at Mayor Council. And then ultimately in early April, the first reading is at Council on March 28th. Then the second reading is on April 3rd. So by mid-April, both GES director seats on the National Western Center Authority Board of Directors will be voting members. And we'll keep you apprised. Again, I also do want a disclaimer that this is a council-led process, and ultimately, if something changes and shifts with council schedules, we have to adapt to what that schedule may become. But we're very excited that as of now, on March 14th, this gets presented to council. Thanks, Brad.
Great, thanks, Anthony. There's a concert at the Stockyards Event Center this weekend. Shanna, you had the name of that group. Can you pull that up?
So it's hopefully going to be a series of mariachi groups that are going to be joining us at the Stockyards Event Center over the next couple of months. The main headliner is called Los Huracanes del Norte. Some of you may be familiar with them, but we do have a couple free tickets to that event. If you're interested in those, please let Anthony know.
Great, thanks. Quick update on the Community Investment Fund. I think we reported last month that the fiscal sponsor has been selected, the Colorado Neighborhood Development Corporation, CNDC, and we're working through the agreement. There's a 3-part agreement between the Community Investment Fund, the authority, and the sponsor, and that's very close. Also happy to report that the during Stock Show, they had tremendous success this year with the roundup, and they collected over $70,000 from the 16 days of Stock Show, and those will be we received the dollars already, so they are in the account for the Community Investment Fund. And when we get the fiscal sponsors agreement signed, that along with the technical assistance dollars and any other roundup dollars that we've been keeping in that account for CIF will get transferred to the fiscal sponsor. So we're close there. We're excited about that. Just a quick reminder to everybody, if you haven't done it already, please sign up for our text messaging platform where we report a lot of stuff out there and it's really handy. You can text NW Center to 21,000 21000 or NWC Espanol to 21,000 21000 to get the messages in Spanish. Jenny, do you want to talk about the public tours? Why don't you report that out?
Sure.
Jenny, will you put those texts, would you put the text or someone put the text links into the chat so people can see them and copy them down?
Bet, happy to do that.
Thank you.
Just wanted to let everyone know that we are interested in getting more and more people out to the campus to see all the amazing progress that the city has made on campus construction. And so we have a new tour request process that is outlined on the page of our website. I am getting an echo on my end. I don't know if folks need to mute, sorry. But if you log onto our website on the very home page, there should be a button that pops up just directly after you open the homepage that says request a tour. And if you click on that button, it'll send you to a Sign Up Genius website that will give you a bunch of different options for Friday tours that are upcoming. We're going to do the fourth Friday of every month. So please help us spread the word on that. And we would love if anyone from this group would like to come out and join us for an upcoming tour.
Great, thank you. And then we've got some topics coming up over the next few months that we wanted to introduce tonight. We have two what we think could be potential projects on the campus that we're going to want to engage this group with and start talking about. One is what we call the Cup North parcel. This is a site that is in between the Livestock Exchange building and the central utility plant. Steve Nally is going to talk a little bit about that and introduce that topic this evening next. And then we also want to talk about equestrian center. The Cup parcel is been really thought of for some time as a potential parking location, a parking structure. Obviously, the campus is going to need parking and to relieve pressure on the neighborhoods from the surrounding neighborhoods from events that we have on the campus. But it's also, we think, a great opportunity and an additional funding source for the Community Investment Fund and to really provide some substantive community benefits through the entire process of this. And we're going to want to engage you in talking about what that might look like over the next number of meetings. And then second, we're going to talk a little bit about the equestrian center. That is the last building in phases 1 and 2. This is on the kind of west side of phases 1 and 2, up towards the river, just east of the riverfront open space. You may remember Jen Wellborn, who's on the call, the meeting tonight, was presented at our July CAC meeting and discussed a couple of things. One, that the 2C funds that we've been using for all of the campus and to do the horizontal infrastructure and the rail relocation, the riverfront, the road, street, bridges, everything, along with the maintenance and ops building, the stockyards, event center, the yards, and those kinds of things. We're focusing those funds on the livestock center, which I just mentioned we broke ground on, and she talked a little bit about that, but also that we were looking at approaches, potential options for how to build the equestrian center and complete phases 1 and 2. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that and what that process might be coming up over the next few months, and same thing to engage you all in that conversation. Gail has her hand up. Go ahead, Gail.
Yeah, I guess this could have waited, but you brought up the SIF. I was just wondering, is there any plans to recruit more community members? I remember when it first started, there were maybe maybe 8 folks in that, and now it's dwindled down to maybe, I don't know how many people are in there now. Are there plans to recruit more community members for the SIF?
Hey Gail, this is Angela.
Perfect.
Yes, there are. We are currently, there was originally 15. There are currently 4, myself, Alfonso Espino, Liliana Amaro, and Tony Garcia. And yes, we are in the process of putting an application together to put out to the community.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gail. Thanks, Angela.
Are any other questions before I jump into the next? I don't see any other hands, so I will. So that we want to talk with you just to give you an update on kind of the conversations we want to be engaging this group on over the coming months around Equestrian Center as well. But Steve Nally is going to present some information about the cup, so you can learn more about where the site is and more of the background on that site.
Steve, before you start, AE has a question.
Thanks, Catherine. And Steve, maybe you can respond to this. In support of the CIF, Brad, can you clarify when you say we think that there might be a project to discuss that could use the community investment funds? What I want to make sure does not happen is that the authority office start proposing and discussing ideas into the neighborhoods without respecting the development of the community investment fund process for involving that as a direct mechanism for receiving and working in partnership with getting these ideas out, because the priority should be set through that process. So when you say we think it would be a good use of the community investment fund, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I must have misspoke, because I'm saying that the project could support the community investment fund, create revenue for, not use the community investment fund. If I misspoke, I apologize.
Good, that's a good clarification. It was a little unclear.
Yeah, no, we see both the Cup North project and the Equestrian Center scenarios as possibilities for further supporting more substantially and create revenue streams for the community investment fund. And that's what we want to be talking about over the next few months.
Okay,
I wasn't clear. What else?
Steve? Yeah, I think we'll turn it over to Steve.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Nally. I'm the Director of Real Estate at the National Western Center Authority. I'm going on 4 years there now, previously at the city for 11 years. Is everyone able to see the slides that I pulled up? See some thumbs up, great. So Brad teed this up really well. This is what we think of as a great opportunity for new investment and future growth of the National Western Center campus. We've very creatively called this the Cup North piece of property because it's north of the central utility plant. You can see it's highlighted by the star on the map. This is west of the tracks. It's east of the river, north of I-70, south of Betty Cram, really close to the CSU Terra building. Make sure I get my mouse here. Zooming in onto the site, this is an aerial image from 2022. You can see the shape of the parcel of land. Again, it's abutting the cooling towers of the central utility plant located here. You can see it's really close to the Denver Rock Island rail line. very close to CSU Terra property, across the parking lot from the Livestock Exchange building, has frontage along the National Western Drive South Street, and is across that street from Blue Silos building. Stepping back 90 years, this is an image from 1933. As you can see, the Livestock Exchange building is here to give you some perspective. This is the location of Cup North, and it was mostly stock pens in the Denver Union stockyards. And interestingly, and Brad mentioned the need for parking out here, and this was actually an old garage that was demolished, where cars were parked that were visiting the stockyards. There's also a little coffee shop in this building, which is pretty interesting. And if you just give me a second, I'd love to just nerd out on how this has changed over time. There is this bridge, this ped bridge catwalk over these rail lines. And if I go back to 22, it just so happens to align perfectly with the ped bridge connecting Terra and Hydro. So I'm sure CSU did that intentionally, but just a minor aside there. Digging into the Cup North, the lay of the land. There's a lot of information on this slide, and I'll pause after working through this to see if there are any questions. But the lay of the land is that it is city-owned property. The authority is leasing the land for the next 100 years. The authority is subject to all the rules, all the requirements in the lease, and these include whatever happens on the land must achieve overall benefit to the National Western Center and the campus, must meet mission and vision. There must be a competitive procurement process for anything that takes place on this property. The social ordinances apply. So small business enterprises, minority and women-owned business enterprises, those goals would have to be set as part of procurements with anything that falls into this lease. Public art program is also included in that. The CIF, which we've discussed a little bit tonight, any future vendor or concessionaire or retailer that may be here in the future will be subject to the CIF. So there's kind of a baseline of requirements set by the lease. We certainly want to talk about ways to exceed those requirements in the future, and as part of a procurement for this property. The land is vacant. It's developable. It's currently used for surface parking and some construction equipment. It's just under an acre in size. It has been rezoned as part of the phases 1 and 2 rezoning, and so it's part of the National Western Center campus of zone districts. It allows a mixture of uses up to 150 feet in height, which is it's about 12 stories allowed. The master plan, looking to the 2015 master plan and the guidance provided in that document, called this out as the Livestock Exchange character area. It was really all the land south of Betty Cram fell into this character area, and it called out the need for supporting the campus, and also identified this as a future growth area, a future growth opportunity where there could be additional educational space, agricultural related businesses, supportive mixed use, complementary development opportunities. The design standards and guidelines that apply here, that anything that is built would have to follow those guidelines. Calls this the innovation character area, which is described as campus supporting infrastructure like the central utility plant, which is providing energy, parking, things of that nature, but over time becoming this opportunity for complementary development and businesses that are leveraging the location and proximity to CSU and creating this kind of cluster of businesses and opportunity around innovation and thinking about the future of food and ag and other industries. So I just want to pause and see if there are any questions about the lay of the land. I'm going to get into the procurement here in a second.
Any questions about this parcel, or any questions about, for example, any of the requirements in the lease or the land itself? I don't see any, Steve, so maybe and if you have any questions, remember, use the chat. We're glad to address them that way as well.
Great. So I will keep going. And I should say that this is the first of many opportunities to talk about this and discuss questions as you have them. The authority has thought about this land and has written down some goals for how it should be used. There is opportunity here to establish a process, establish precedent for the community process for future development opportunities. We don't know what those development opportunities are. This happens to be one of them. There may be others in the future, but we can use this opportunity to establish how we work together for future land development. How might this project benefit the community, including further supporting the CIF? We do have a parking shortage. That today on the campus there's a parking shortage, and there will certainly be one in the future. So this is we think a great site for building a good supply of parking. Of course, we need to implement the founding documents, the master plan, and discussions that have happened up to this point, furthering the mission and vision. There is an opportunity to generate revenue for the authority, which is important for us to be good partners, good neighbors, and continue to also support the CIF. And then there's just this unique opportunity to be as close to CSU really as possible. This land is it's tucked in and very close, and so how might we leverage those adjacencies and partner with CSU even more so? So this is a proposed sequence for selecting a development partner. This is a fairly standard procurement process that you all have heard of before, I'm sure. And we want to work with you. We want input from the CAC, and we'll provide updates, of course, along the way, especially in the early stage of setting goals, refining this process. And so we'll do that together in future work sessions. We'll write an RFQ. We'll write evaluation criteria, then shortlist, put it out to the street, shortlist the respondents. We'll then write and issue an RFP, a request for proposals, set evaluation criteria, and then shortlist those proposers, hopefully make a selection to enter into exclusive negotiations, and select a partner for developing something on this parcel, parking, and hopefully maybe some other activation ideas. And so again, this is just a short introduction. We'll have many more opportunities for discussion, future work sessions with CAC around what activation would you like to see, what additional uses beyond parking, what additional community benefits beyond those already required in the lease. We can talk about the RFQ, RFP content and work on evaluation criteria together. At some point, that process does become confidential just to uphold the integrity of the competition. But we'll do our best to share what we can, and of course, want your input to inform the creation of those documents. And then hopefully have a member of the CAC join the selection committee, a voting member, when these selections are made. So again, many more conversations to come. We just wanted to start here with you all, and open to questions, and there's a lot to think about here, and should you have more questions, you can send those to Anthony, but wanted to open up to questions about Cup North now in the process. You guys are quiet.
Any questions? I'm sorry. I know my For some reason, my computer's has an echo. AE, is your hand up?
Yeah, first I want to encourage everybody there are no dumb questions, and if anything needs clarification, please jump in. I always hate to be the one filling the void, but I do want to ask, I missed it, was CUP an acronym?
Yeah, CUP stands for the Central Utility Plant.
Why don't you do CCUP, Cram Circle Utility Plant? Did you notice that circle has Betty Cram Drive right in the middle? That's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
So Steve, I'm going to ask you to do a Wayback Machine. The slide that the lay of the land, I think is a really, I don't know if you can go back to it or not. I don't know what you're dealing with technically.
Yeah,
I just want to say historically in this process, that is what I consider an excellent demonstration of those many months of zoning discussions that we had, and you were there, Steve, you facilitated some of this. Remember the choice between the minutia and the overview? And I think it's important. Much of where these things are coming from is not being carried forward in the conversation. And I think it's important because there are values and reflections in there that had to do with the quality of life in the neighborhoods and the flexibility of potential future zoning and that kind of a thing in this development. And I really think that in that slide is a kind of a clue as to some of the mechanistic statements that lead to another step of neighborhoods engagement that can be pretty exciting. I would also like to suggest you've limited the procurement membership to a CAC member in the way you've prepared that graphic. And until the CAC gets a clear definition of its process and what it's and becomes manifest as a more broadly engaged and presence in the neighborhoods, I really think there may be a liability to limiting the definition of being a CAC member isn't even clear. So I just want to insert that into the conversation as part of the process, because there's a lot of people that are not here and engaged in this process that could be, there might be entry points for them to become involved, and it's something to just think about. So I just want to put that on the table as we go forward with this conversation.
Thanks. Suggestions, AE, thank you. And I know Anthony's doing a lot more outreach and to really bring back a number of those individuals who were originally involved and as you suggested, perhaps in some of the earlier projects. So great suggestion.
Catherine, if I may, I appreciate that, but that's fine. And I hope everyone finds a place, but I'm also talking about the thousands of people in the neighborhoods that are not engaged but need the and that's up to us. You can have one person as an engagement person here and there doing these things, but there's a dynamic that's got an exponential potential, neighbor to neighbor and that kind of a thing. So I just want to clear what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I understood. I think obviously part of what we are hoping you all do is help us identify those individuals as well. So that's really important. And the CAC membership is defined, but it's not exclusive, right? And I think I hear you saying that.
It is defined. Okay, well, I'd like to look at that document, but no, right now it's not relevant. Let's keep going with what Steve.
Okay. Thanks, AE. Okay. Any questions again? Anthony is available.
Yeah, just one thing for the members that are on the meeting this evening, I will post this on our website, and I will make sure when it gets posted, I will send everybody an email so that you're aware that it is posted on the website. But this presentation will be posted there. And as Steve mentioned, this is just the first of many conversations in the coming months. So thank you. Catherine, you're on mute.
Well, and I went for 5 minutes. We have a couple more agenda items just as a time check for all of you, is that we want to talk about the Equestrian Center and have a plenty of time to do that. But also, please don't leave before we talk about the selection or the identification process, application process for the board seat. So that will be the last thing that we talk about, and we'll leave plenty of time to do that. So Brad, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. So I mentioned that we wanted to talk a little bit about the Cup North process that we want to define and want to talk in similar terms about the Equestrian Center. So just a reminder, so the city and authority, as we talked about some number of months ago, has been considering sort of buckets of scenarios, if you will, around how we complete the campus and specifically the Equestrian Center. And so I just wanted to present they're really kind of background elements that can inform the discussion for this group coming up in future meetings. But we also wanted to come to you and share what we've the kind of research we've done and so far, and where we are in that process, and what additional information we think we'll have soon to discuss. So it is far from anywhere near baked, and because I know that's been a request of the community in the past, is bring us things as they're developing. So all this is very much hot off the press. The city and the partners and the authority have looked in terms of the Equestrian Center. We could go about this through a certificates of participation approach, where they using the 2C tax revenues over time to repay it. That could pay for the Equestrian Center. But as we looked at that site, and it's a large site, it's about 16 acres. The concept of adding a hotel to this site, that's one of the uses that has been talked about somewhere on the site for a long time, and been asking the question, could a hotel make sense on this site, and wanted to bring that discussion to the CAC and community. And so we're interested in studying that further with you. The site has room for it. There are some things about it that I think folks find intriguing. The idea of bringing more activation and regular activation to phases 1 and 2, utilizing this very awesome riverfront site along National Western Drive North, potentially freeing up some space on the triangle and creating the kind of activation that helps the other facilities that we're building on the campus, most notably SYC and Riverfront and Livestock Center, but also like the CUP site, as a tool and a source for creating community benefits. Everything you can think about, from MWBEs in design and construction process, and also in operations, but also in funding the community investment fund and creating a revenue streams for the community investment fund. Just a couple of facts about it. This is and would remain city-owned land. If there was a hotel built on this site, it too would be city-owned. I think folks find it interesting too that a hotel pays back into its taxes, pay into the very funding stream that the National Western Center mostly is funded by, which is the kind of lodgers taxes that fund 2C lodgers, short-term car rentals, and restaurant taxes that fund 2C and our campus. So there's some circular benefit there that we think is intriguing. The authority's job and our role in this, we see ourselves, and we have to walk the talk, but we see ourselves as being one of the champions for the GES communities. And this is a process and a potential project like the CUP project, where we very much want to be in that role, but work with you to define, to inform what that role is, and how it, and work alongside you to define this. So in the coming months, we want to set up some work sessions with CAC, collaborate with you to find what are those community benefits that would be meaningful, that would be relevant in a scenario like I've described. And we'll also be bringing you additional information that the city primarily is pulling together and has been working on and will be completing in the coming weeks and months to assess what we've assessed so far, and to test those concepts with you to see if they make sense to pursue. Our goal here is to give you advance notice of this process that we want to enter into. Next month, we plan to bring back some of this additional information, along with a process draft and timeline that we can talk about and review and critique together. And then I'll just close just with a couple of key points here that I want to make sure I'm clear about, that because I don't want to be misunderstood. This is not the triangle. This is not the triangle process. This is specific to our approach to studying and finding a strategy for finishing the campus and building the equestrian center. It would be funded through 2C revenue streams. It would engage a potential partner to develop and potentially operate the hotel, but it would be city owned. There's some similar elements to this in the convention center hotel downtown, but I'm not an expert on that, so I don't want to be. I could be incorrect about some of those pieces, but generally I think that's right. It will open substantially more opportunity for MWBE involvement on the campus, contribute, be a funding stream for the Community Investment Fund. And we want to work with you to inform the planning of the process and the project. And so next month we'd be back to you with additional information on that. So we're in very similar places in these two different potential project discussions. Much more to come, but happy to answer any questions about that which I've described so far. I've tried to keep my comments to kind of what we know and to be clear about what we don't know as well. But they're exciting opportunities, and I'm excited because this is really the opportunity for us to start to implement the commitments that the city and the partners have made around community, and to some opportunities that weren't initially thought would exist in phases 1 and 2. So kind of exciting there to get some opportunities earlier than we thought. I will stop there.
Okay, and
I didn't know if Jen, we can take some questions, but I didn't know if Jen had anything she wanted to add to that too. So, because I did all the talking.
okay. I see a head shake from Jen saying no, that Brad did a great job in doing that. But we do have a couple questions, 3 questions in the, or I guess 2 questions in the in the chat from Sandra, Brad, would this affect the rents in the neighborhood?
I think that what's affecting the rents in the neighborhood is what's happening citywide. I mean, myself, I don't pretend to be an expert on retail real estate market forces, but I don't think so. I mean, the National Western Center is a known entity. This is a project that's been known, the development that's going to be there, and while more activity in the city, I suppose, and more activity in and around GES, there are certainly market forces acting on the entire city, but definitely on GES as well, that are raising folks' rents. But I don't know that I would necessarily attach this project to that specifically, but I suppose it could be a component of that too. So I don't know how to answer that question.
From Angela, the question is, would the CIF receive monies from the hotel?
That we assume so, and we would, that's what we want to engage this group and CIF in the discussions around how we'd like to see that happen and what we'd like to see and to what extent. That's exactly the kind of conversations we want to have, because we won't get what we don't ask for. And those are the kind of things we want to be very intentional about. If a project like this were to go forward, there would be an RFP, right? Similar kind of RFP process that Steve described for the Cup North site. We want to craft that intention with you, and we can make it criteria for selection. I mean, we can really make that what we want to have happen, have some serious meaning in the selection. I would anticipate too the same kinds of community involvement in the selection process. So yeah, is my short. That's a very long answer to say yes to your question.
Nola, I saw you had your hand up before. Do you have any question you want to ask or make a comment?
I was also wondering about the CIF, if we were talking about the roundup or something else, but I think Brad answered it. But I guess another question is, Brad, you said free space up on the triangle, which I like that idea. But also, to what end, freeing space up for what, I guess is the question. And I know there's challenges in answering that. But I think that's kind of the sticking point from my perspective, is like, well, if then a hotel wouldn't go in the triangle and it would free up space for potentially for affordable housing, other things, but when, at what point would we know that that's what that's doing, or that there's some sort of community commitment at the triangle?
Right. I understand. I think I can go some distance in answering that question. I mean, what we know for sure is that there are a lot of uses that a lot of folks from different organizations and community members and neighbors, lots of different ideas about what can go, what should go in the triangle, what could go in the triangle. And generally, I think it has been, I won't say accepted, but there have been a lot of conversation about the fact that, around this kind of a place that has events and things, a hotel use would be very helpful. I wouldn't go so far to say mandatory, although there might be some market experts that would say that, but that it would be very helpful. I'll say that at a minimum. And if that were the case, that would be one more pressure on every pressure, on the precious square footage of the whole campus. And what we've learned is that we think there's potentially room there on the equestrian site for that, and it's a good adjacency. And And so I do think it is, without answering the question, what does that make room for? Because I think that's really at the core of your question that we'd all like answered. It takes pressure off of that, because this would be one thing that could, or I think likely would, be competing for square footage on the in and around the triangle. Is that helpful? I don't know. I don't want to misspeak either, but that's probably the best answer I can give right now.
That's helpful for me, Brad. Thanks.
A question from Angela is there going to be, if there's going to be a hotel, what about a grocery store, since that will increase density?
So I think that, grocery, and we've talked some about, the future 1909 year-round public market. We hope that in the not too distant future, after there is a new mayor elected, that we are turning our attention to the triangle. And that is certainly, that access to healthy foods in GES is clearly a significant priority for everyone, I would say. And whether it's the 1909 or public market or something else, I think that's on everyone's minds. I wouldn't think that this location is that place, but I think you ask a really good question in thinking about, if there is a hotel on the equestrian site, what does that mean in terms of, future uses on the triangle, and how does that inform? Because that'll be sort of the existing condition, right? If a hotel were built, that would be a new existing condition that will be considered as the triangle site is master planned. The triangle is not separate from the National Western Center. Sandra asked that question. Is the triangle separate from the National Western Center? The triangle will be part of the National Western Center. It is all part. It is currently not in our master lease, and that has to go through a process. And we've got a lot of work to do before we even we know it's going to be there. But it is part of the National Western Center.
Thank you, Brad. I would just like to add, people often talk about GES being a food desert, which of course we are. But the other thing is, when I say grocery store, I'm not just talking about food. I'm talking about the fact that we have to go so far out to buy pet food, diapers, toothpaste, deodorant, and all the other items that we need for our home. So in order to save us time and gas, and thank God for the GES connector to get us around to Commerce City. But if we had something that we could go to be able to purchase those things. So I just want to encourage people to think of the larger picture and not just think of supplying us with fruits and vegetables, which we need because we don't need scurvy. But to remember the other things that we are also in need of. While we can get the food boxes, which we're all always very grateful for, it's just trying to get out to get the other things that we need to live our daily lives. Thank you.
Got it. That makes total sense.
Any further questions? Brad, is there any other information you'd like to share under either for Cup North or for the equestrian center and any potential
more to come?
Hotel?
More to come. We just wanted to introduce the topics so that folks aren't surprised over the coming meetings when we dig deeper into this as more information comes to light.
Okay. Steve, Jen, or Brad, anything else you'd like to add? Anything from the CAC on questions? Any final questions, comments? Again, you please use the chat if you'd like to make sure we see it. Okay, so at our last meeting, we had a very vibrant and a vibrant conversation about the process for selecting a board member. And Anthony and Jenna and a little bit of me are going to talk about how we've taken that information back and come up with a plan to see, to get your feedback on. And so, Anthony, do you want to start, and then over to Jenna, and then Jenna, I have that last slide whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I think where we left our last meeting was, kind of creating a process for informing the community that there is a community board seat available, and how to apply. So we took that information and we wanted to share with you a couple of concepts. And the first one, Jenna, do you want to go right into, let me preface this. All of the information that we are sharing with you tonight was generated from conversations that we've had here at the CAC Plus. We want to partner with you, but we do not want there to be a perception that we are leading this effort. We want to partner and help get the word out through several mechanisms. But again, we want this to be a community CAC Plus led process. And so just wanted to reiterate that point, that this isn't us leading this effort, but just we've created some information for you tonight to respond to in terms of how we can help you move the process forward. So Jenna, go ahead.
Can I just add something? I think it's really important to underscore that anybody who wants to serve on a board or commission throughout the city can apply directly to the board and commission's office, and directed by Romaine Pacheco. The process, I think, that you all have, at least some of you have talked about, is how do we sort of make recommendations, because the requirement of an application is that there be some references, or not references, but sort of recommendations. Who would recommend it? And I think one of the ideas that at least I heard at the last meeting was that the CAC would like to be able to recommend if they see that there is an individual they'd like to do so with, but anybody can apply directly to the.
Catherine, you're cutting in and out. You may want to close up. I think, did we lose her?
Yeah, I think I lost her. I know she's been dealing with some tech challenges this evening, so I'm sure she'll jump back on. But in the meantime, I'll kind of pick up where she left off. We, during our last meeting, discussed a plan of action on how to best, for lack of a better term, recruit our newest board member. And of course, as Anthony mentioned, we want to do that in partnership with you all. And as part of that process, we had offered to take a first stab at drafting up a flyer or a postcard that would be mailed out to all of the addresses in the 80216 zip code. And we did get, a quote from a professional printer and so forth, and they were able to purchase a list of addresses in 80216 that I believe include about a little over 6,500 addresses, and those are all residential. Because we want a resident of GES serving on the board, we are limiting it to residences. But of course, that's up for discussion. If we feel strongly that we want to include commercial addresses in that process, we're happy to pull those as well. But with that, I will share my screen with just kind of a basic concept or idea that we came up with for this postcard idea. So this would be the front of it. Of course, it's in both English and in Spanish, but we really wanted to, the call to action be for people who are interested in applying to serve on the board of directors. to influence the future development on the campus, to help curate different events and programming that could exist on the future campus, and of course to ensure that all neighbors' voices are being heard within the board. And then there's a second page where the addresses will go.
Yeah, Jenna, we're not seeing your screen. I just want to make sure I wasn't the only person. Thank you,
Oh.
AE. But it just says that you're started screen sharing, but there's nothing. It's a black screen. So.
Oh, interesting. Well, now I get to be the one with tech issues, I suppose. Hang on one second. My Zoom has completely froze up on me, so give me just a second. In the meantime, Catherine, do you maybe want to share just our slide of different stakeholders that we came up with on as kind of a questions on where and how to distribute this information.
Hey Jenna, this is Brad. Do you want me to share my screen? And I do have that flyer up if you can't
great.
get it.
Yeah, for whatever reason, my Zoom has just completely frozen up on me. Are you sharing the flyer now?
Yeah.
No, I
Same thing
can't.
happened
It
to
won't
me.
let me because
I just made you a co-host, Brad. Jenna, maybe go out of your.
Yeah, you may have to sign out and jump back in because here we go. Let me try it now.
Yeah, and Brad, I made you a co-host, so it should work for you.
Can you see me, Anthony?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's see here. Are you seeing it?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you,
Okay.
Brad. So this is the front of the postcard. As I was mentioning, it's in English and in Spanish. But wanted to include some details as to what serving on this board would look like and the types of impacts that this individual could make. So influencing future campus development, help curating events and future programming, and of course, representing neighborhood voices. And then Brad, if you want to scroll to the second page, this is the page where the addresses would be in the bottom right-hand corner. We'd also like to propose hosting an information session at our offices. The date, of course, on that would be to be determined, but we'd like to do an info session with folks to better describe the roles and responsibilities associated with sitting on the board of directors and kind of what that looks like, the time commitment that it creates, and so forth. So would love to hear any feedback that you all have or addition.
So the information session, if anybody wants, we don't want to get into anybody's personal business, but the application process is pretty straightforward. Takes a little bit of action. I just filled out one for a board that I was interested in, but we'd be glad to just talk about boards and commissions in general at that information session as well, if that would be helpful. If you all think that would be helpful, because boards and commissions as a general rule have a certain process, and for somebody who may not have sat on a board but would like to sit on this board, it might be helpful just to get a general overview of what that would mean.
Brad, it looks like AE is requesting you go back to the first page if you don't mind. And of course, we're happy to email this out. I should also mention, please ignore the FPO labels on these images. Those are watermarks of sorts that will be deleted once we finalize this flyer. Those are just kind of temporarily there until we determine what we actually want this flyer to look like.
Hi, this is Angela, and I would just suggest use a different word for curate. I mean, it's 6-something here at night, and my retired brain is going, I know what that means, but what does that mean? Just basic, simple English. Not that we're stupid in our community. We are far from that. It's just plain simple English is just always the best. And also I personally like the idea of people wanting to go and meet and find out what they would be doing. Because as I said previously, other people have wanted to apply and were intimidated by the process of applying. And I think this would eliminate part of that uncertainty of what a board is, what would be expected of them to be able to participate. Thank you.
Yeah, and Angela, along those lines, we really want to have someone, hopefully here tonight, volunteer to join us at the National Western Center on a date that's most convenient for the individual. As we mentioned, it would be held at our office, but it'd also be a hybrid option, so that if someone isn't able to get to the campus, or it works better with their schedule to join us virtually, but would choose a time that is most convenient for a community member, and then we'd be happy to host it at our office as well as hybrid.
I think with that, as I mentioned, I will go ahead and email this out to everyone so that you can further review it. I know it's kind of hard to read and participate at the same time, so we will email this out for further review and comments. Feel free to send those comments either back to me directly or to Anthony, and we will get those made. And then Catherine, if you don't mind just popping up that other slide, we just made a list.
You know, I can't, Jenna, because I had to go off my desktop.
No problem. We did make just a brief list of what we consider to be a good course of action to distribute these flyers and postcards. Of course, as I mentioned, we're going to be mailing them out to the 6,800 addresses that we've collected in 80216. But we'd also like to propose distributing them to GES RNOs, to Denver City Council, to our fellow campus partners here at the National Western Center, of course, utilizing our text message platform and social media and website mechanisms for getting out that information as well. We'd like to send out a newsletter, and then of course we always, when we're distributing critical information at the National Western Center, we really like to print physical copies of them as well to leave at rec centers and libraries around town. And then of course Anthony is out in the community at lots of different events throughout the month, so he will definitely be bringing physical copies with him as well to distribute that way. Really looking to you all to see if there's any other stakeholders that are critical to this process that we should add to that list. We're happy to disseminate this information, but as mentioned, we want to partner with you all on it as much as possible.
Just to reiterate that this is your process. We have, based on the discussions we had last week or last month, really created a mailer that we hope meets your needs. But anything that you want to direct us to support you on, we're very glad to do, but also acknowledge this is your process. And I think one of the things we'll need is, you know, who should we turn to? And among all of you here tonight, are there some folks who want to step forward to sort of lead this process? And of course, we will support you in every way we can, but also acknowledge that this is something that is the community's process. So Angela's saying is consider having discussions in the GES. That's a great idea. And we can hold that meeting wherever you want. We could go to a public building. We can go to, Prodigy Coffee. We can go to a lot of different places. Wherever you'd like to hold it, we're glad to go. Is there anybody in particular who would like to sort of take the lead on this out of the CAC?
Catherine
this-
AE has her hand up. You may not have seen.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay, AE?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I do not want to take the lead. I want to be very clear, but I absolutely would like to be part of the critical discussion of this. I want to correct a misinterpretation at something I was advocating for this process at the last meeting. Near the end, Anthony, if you listen to the tape, you'll hear that you quickly, and it's okay, you summarized that I was saying I felt notification should go across the city for this. That was not what I was saying. What I was advocating for was comprehensive notification going into the population of GES, because it is in the framework agreement right now that, as I understand it, and I haven't looked at it for a month or two, that it would be that these seats would be a GES resident. And I'm an advocate of it being somebody who has children, this is my bias, that are in the public school systems. I think there's a lot of advantage to that, but that's another discussion. So I want to be very clear that, and I'm concerned about that list that's only 6,500. I'd like to see the source and have you make it clear to us where you got that, because as I understand it, there's about 10,500 or so, something like that, people in the 80216 zip code, but that might be outside of GES. And we need to, let's just be real transparent about it. There's also layers of people that are in these neighborhoods that are not going to show up as direct in direct mailings that are possibly participants. So I think we ought to vet that openly for the best possible outreach. I also feel like I'm skittish about you, Jenna, with due respect to your hard work, I'm skittish about using the term having recruit, because that's implying that the CAC plus whatever this group is recruiting something to criteria. And I do feel like we really have to make it clear to people that this person, although they, with something like these boards of directors, it is the authority board of director. It has to support the integrity of the authority in the 501c3, but it is also accountable, has to make the authority accountable. So having someone recruited by the authority, I think that there's something to discuss about understanding the nature of these organizations, because it's at the board. This board of directors, like many, makes decisions about budgets, personnel, initiatives, and that kind of a thing. So I think there has to be some autonomy that allows this person to be 100% responsive to the larger and larger discussion within the neighborhoods. And there's numerous opportunities to we have time to bring into the neighborhood orientations to people about understanding the application process. I wish that the boards and commissions could be listed as a contact on this as well, but I'm getting nervous because the authority has not expressed some lack of confidence in the last meeting that the boards and commission personnel would be up to the task of doing the orientation. So I'm inserting that into the conversation and hope everybody will look closely at the graphics of the mailer and discuss the ideas. I support doing the orientation toward this out into somewhere in the real estate or the terrain of the neighborhoods, often NWC office, even though I don't think everyone is not trusting of the NWC project or not comfortable with it. I think that it's there's a lot of lack of understanding and lack of agreement and lack of engagement with what's going on, and we have to remedy that. So I just want to insert that into the conversation.
Those are really good remarks. Thank you again, CE, for bringing them, AE, bringing them forward. I think it's your process, and whoever gives the orientation really is up to you. There are people who've been in boards and commissions who have sort of lived that experience, or there is certainly the option of asking the boards and commissions office to send a representative to talk about it. It really is up to you, and I think the committee that gets sort of directs this is really going to be the ones to decide that. It's not up to the NWCA to do that. We're here to support you and listen to the things that you need to have a successful gathering of names. So, you know, it's again, appreciate that you want to be involved. I'm wondering if there's anybody else who would like to be involved in this process that would help in doing the work that the CAC is really, I think, very much committed to doing.
Catherine Gale has her hand up.
Gail?
Hi. So when does this, I may have missed it. So when does this application open online?
So it's current, as Catherine mentioned in the beginning, anyone from the community could apply tomorrow.
Okay.
I did learn in a conversation with Romaine Pacheco, the mayor's director of boards and commissions last week, that she would share that applicant with us so that we were aware that the individual had applied. We do know, and also in conversation with Romaine, it is the mayor's hope and wish that a community member be identified by no later than the end of April, so that the mayor can make this appointment in early May, understanding that even after he makes the appointment, there still is a city council process for approval, which takes up to 4 weeks. So we do sort of have a rough kind of schedule that I would love to share when it's appropriate, just to receive feedback in terms of timing, but again, nothing is set in stone at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other volunteers to help with the process?
A has her hand up. Catherine, you may be able to see it.
Hey, Catherine, let me clarify. I am not volunteering to be on a CAC committee, if that's what you're thinking. I'm going to be involved in this process as a constituent from Globeville. And just as a person that's embedded as a vested observer, what membership is in the CAC, what the CAC process is, what the consensus and parliamentary organization of CAC has not been resolved. I cannot you know, default to an assumption that there's clarity there. We have to figure this out. So I just want to be clear about that. And I'm engaged, I will continue to be engaged with anyone and everyone that wants to converse. And I will always encourage people to understand the direct application process to the boards and commissions. And Anthony, in that framework, could you clarify, you said the Mayor Hancock is asking for a community member to be, I can't remember the adjective used, selected or something by a certain date. Are you saying that the Mayor Hancock is ceding the decision to what the most preferred community member would be to CAC? Because if that's what you're saying, I'm concerned about this being a fully inclusive process, and the CAC, which is undefined in its scope of representation and engagement across the neighborhoods, being given a weight that may not be appropriate.
Yeah. The mayor would like to identify a community member to appoint to the board of directors before he leaves office.
And that's what the boards and commissions process is. Anybody and everybody can apply.
Right, correct.
So you're talking about the open process through the boards and commission, or are you referring to him asking the authority specifically to give him one name?
No, the appropriate open process for applicants to apply for the boards and commissions office.
Okay, thank you. That's real important for us all to understand.
Yep.
And if I could add something, just what I thought I'd heard you just say is that the authority would give him a name. The authority's not going to give him or boards or commissions a name. If there are names given, it would be from the CAC to boards and commissions, as you know, folks that had the and please, I don't know, I'm going to use the wrong word here, but the CAC stamp of approval or something like that, that was CAC supported somehow. That doesn't mean that any other neighbor couldn't apply and couldn't be selected. They absolutely could be. But what we're hearing, what we wanted to share is that the administration, I think there is, if the CAC wants to have to go through a process and to vet any candidates or whatever the process is the CAC chooses, it is that the administration, who knows if they'll actually get all this done. They have a lot to get done before they leave office. But the messaging we're getting is that they're trying to fill the vacant board seats that they have, and this is one of them, and that's what they've told us.
So I get that, Brad. I just want to be clear. I didn't say that, I was asking Anthony to clarify whether or not what was being said is the CAC was sending, at the mayor's request, a representative. I didn't say that it was. And I think it's important what you just clarified, that be taken, you know, the CAC endorsement also has to be put in context when that occurs. What is the CAC? What is the engagement, and that kind of thing? And it's important for that to be transparent.
Yeah.
And for the discussion to be very broad and inclusive across the neighborhoods. That's all.
Got it.
So I think what we've described is what we heard would be helpful in creating an inclusive process, and there's always adjustments that can be made. AE, to your point, I think as the discussion, as you mapped out the roles and responsibilities, that wasn't there in those meetings, but as you mapped out that and you defined what roles and responsibilities were for the board member, you also talked about having a process where there was an inclusive seeking of names of people who would be interested in serving on the board. And we've laid out a process, but it's not the authority's process. We want to reflect that the process has to be owned by the community. And how do we support you doing that? And I think we're trying to do as much as we can here. If there are other things that you would like us to do, we don't want to step into any of those responsibility seats, because we know that this is a really important process that you spent a lot of time thinking about over many months. So I don't know how other people feel about.
Catherine, I hope other people will speak up, but the last thing. Regarding owning this process, I agree that the constituents of the neighborhoods need to own it. That is why my first request is that the implementation that has been taken, it sounds like if I understood correctly, a mailing list has been purchased of 6,500 names, which is an implementation where an administrative decision has been made regarding a foundational scope of outreach. And so I question that in terms of, I just want to, it may be fantastic, maybe something, I really don't know, but I've seen contrasts of how to locate the populations directly. So I'm just asking for a very specific thing to make available the origins of that list. Maybe it's very reassuring as we finish the design of the card that goes to those folks, because that's an implementation. So owning the process, let's be comprehensive about vetting what that list is.
Okay.
Also, Catherine, if I could add something, that my understanding too, and check me on this, Jenna, it's 6,500-ish addresses, not names. They're households, I think.
And just to clarify, I think it's important, really, really important to clarify that we have not yet purchased anything at all.
Thanks, I appreciate that correction. I really appreciate that.
I do want to mention that we have the possibility of purchasing this list of names and addresses through our printing company. They offered that as a service to us. I don't know if, I think we would have to purchase the list. I think they quoted me $50 to do so. AE and anyone else on the call, if you're interested in reviewing that list, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't see any issue with sharing that list with you. Or if you have any other ideas in terms of how to best collect that information, we're open to that as well. I just, me personally, I've never done a mailer in 80216 yet. So, I went the route that was, made most sense to me, which was going directly through the printer, because 68 plus 100 addresses actually sounded like a decent number to me. But if it's not adequate to this group, let's have that conversation and figure out a better course of action.
I think the idea of mailing, just to remember the last meeting, was that there was a conversation about using a mailing list to reach households throughout the 80216 zip code. I'm wondering if there are other individuals, Angela, other residents, Gail, who have ideas on NOLA about how you all want to proceed. Because again, this is a process that that is important to you, and we want you to be the leaders of it. We only want to be the supporters of it, and we're trying to figure out what that might mean in a timely way to get it done in time to meet at least the mayor's interest in appointing someone. So any other ideas, Nola, Sandra, Angela, Gail, anybody else Anne, any members of the committee?
Well, I'm thinking we better move quickly on this. How can we guarantee that the mayor, that someone doesn't apply and is appointed? I mean, because there's really no process in place. All of the vetting that we talked about, it's really not set in stone. There hasn't been a change in the process, right? Like a concrete change.
No, I think what I see is that the CAC would like to have a voice in that and make a recommendation of that. And we've outlined a process here for doing that. But if it's not the process you like, obviously we're open to helping support you in what that process could be. But we need some direction from the group, and to AE's point is that she doesn't want to be the lone voice there. And I really appreciate that, AE. I'm just wondering if there are other members of the CAC who would like to weigh in on this and give us some direction on how you would like us to proceed. Angela, anything from you? Nope.
So at the last meeting, we did talk about different ways to do outreach, and the mailing part, it was something that we agreed to. So as a first step, I'm with you guys on selling those postcards. Because if we keep waiting and waiting, we already waited for a whole year. And we keep doing this process very long, and I know every process takes time, so it can be done well. But I think if we can start with those postcards and see the result of that, and also ourselves as residents, we can start telling our neighbors about the application that is already open. Whoever is interested in applying, because that'll help us also. And I know most of us are from different groups here. We can even go to our RNOs and talk to our members about applying, because I feel like if we keep, I don't know, I just feel that we have taken a long time on this process, and hopefully, I mean, we can just move on with all the other things that we need to address in the future.
Yeah, Sandra, along those lines, we're happy to print additional postcards and deliver them to any community member that would like to maybe share, as you mentioned, with your neighbors or networks. We can also, Jenna, before I answer this, I think that we can also have the postcard created digitally so that you then have the ability to electronically send the postcard information. One of the elements of the postcard, before it can be finalized and printed, is happy to host this information session, happy to host it someplace in the community, but we would want to work with a community member to select the date, because that information is going to be included on the postcard when it gets printed. So I just wanted to just share that as well.
Okay. Well, if there's anyone who would like to step forward, please let us know. We'll go. It seems like I can't see the chat, but AE, I think you've clarified that you're more comfortable with the idea of the mailing. So we'll if we can maybe we'll suggest a date for the educational session and send it out to all of you and let you know, or ask you whether that works for you, and then maybe we can recruit some others that way. If you know of anybody who would like to, has some time on their hands and would like to, who may not be at the meeting tonight, please let us know, because again, we want to make this your process, not make it, but we want to, it already is your process. We want to support you in everything you want to do so that it's successful. Okay. Any other issues, Anthony, that we want to move on from?
No, I think I can just share, I mean, in terms of just, just a thought around a schedule or a timeline is, we would hopefully in the next week create the postcard. Jenna, I'm not sure the turnaround time for that, but we would host that information session, I would say probably towards the end of March. And the reason being to get the word out that we're hosting this information, that the CAC Plus is going to be hosting this information. A member of the community is going to be hosting this information session. Sorry, keep blah, blah, blah. And then perhaps at the April CAC Plus meeting, we could share individuals that have applied for this board seat, and then that would then work with the timeline that Romaine has requested, so that the mayor can make the appointment in May.
Real quick, Catherine, I know you aren't able to see the chat, but there's a couple of comments in here. Sandra's asking, why not have it open to business people that have been involved in this whole process? They're part of our community. And I would just say to that, it does specify in the framework agreement that this board member needs to reside within GES. So for that reason, we weren't going to include business owners in the mailer, in fear that we don't want to set a bad precedent that, we're inviting them to apply and ultimately they can't apply. But obviously that's open to discussion. And then Nola's asking,
Jenna,
yeah,
specific to that question too. There are other board seats, right? I mean, we don't have any open this moment, but there are other board seats that business members, there's no limitation that it's just 2 community members. So we could have a board seat that someone could apply for who was a business owner but not a resident. So just something to think about.
Yeah, I was able to pull up my chat, Jenna. So Gail is in agreement about the postcard and the digital postings to all the GES residents, and then and then Sandra is suggesting maybe we, as they're registering for trees, we can also share this information with them.
And then I think Noah was asking, she asked if we were going to send out the presentation. And while I'm not sure if she was referring to the Cup North presentation or the flyer, but regardless, I think we've committed to sending both of those things out and posting them to our website. So,
Thank you, Jenna. Any other comments, issues anyone would like to bring up? Let's see, message from AE Anthony, when you propose in the April meeting the names of the individuals who have applied to be shared, are you referring only to the applications that come through the CAC Plus? And what is the policy of the board's releasing those names? I think, let's try.
Yep, there's only one place where an individual can apply to serve on a board and commission, and that is with the mayor's office through Romaine Pacheco. She has told me that she will share those names with us so that we are aware of who has applied. And that's the only place. So no, community members are not able to apply to the CAC Plus because the CAC Plus does not have an application process to apply to. It has to go through the formal application process with boards and commissions.
So to be clear, Anthony, you have been told by boards and commissions that a list of applicants can be released in advance so that folks can talk directly with those folks, whether or not they're part of the CAC, to get a sense of if they could support that individual.
Correct.
It's important for people to know that because you can approach the city council directly relative to the approval of the appointment, and you can write letters directly to the mayor and the city council members about people that you would support, whether or not the CAC is involved.
Yeah, and for folks that may not know, the reason that she's able to share that list with us is because I staff the National Western Center Authority Board of Directors, and it has been her policy, and I just learned this too. It has been her policy since she was the director of boards and commissions that she shares the applicants with staff personnel for every single board and commission that the mayor makes appointments to.
So whoever staffs the particular department, whether it's you or somebody else, it is in sense a policy. It is not strictly a personal connection. It is a policy of the boards and commissions to release the applicants for those in the neighborhoods that want to get acquainted with them to do so.
You are 100% correct. Yes.
Hey, Gail, did you feel okay with those graphics on that card or just the distribution? Because I don't know if the graphics, there's some options with the graphics, but in your wording, it was you supported the full mailing and the digital. Were you approving the graphics or do you want to think about that?
No, I just meant the, maybe I'm saying the wrong word, but just electronic version then, so we could.
Gotcha. There are no wrong words, and I want to say that to Brad too. Keep saying maybe I'll use the wrong word. It's all a matter of precision, so we understand each other's meanings. It's not right or wrong words. It's precision to prevent misunderstanding. It's a disease across the land.
Okay, so I think we've got a bit of a process in place. We'll go forward with the purchase of the addresses. We're sending out the postcard for any adjustments you'd like to recommend. We're encouraging some individuals to, whoever might want to sort of convene this process from the community. And we'll be in support of whatever that process may be. And you can look to us for being ready to do that.
I propose that we set a date for that informational meeting, just because I don't want to hold it up until we find a place in the community. I just think we should get on it.
We can definitely select a date, but we need a location as well. But I mean,
well, where are the meetings? Where does the board meet?
Well, no, we had proposed hosting the informational session at at our office, and Angela suggested that, rightfully so, that we host the meeting in the community.
But where do they meet normally? Where would the board member go for these meetings? Where do they meet at?
At our offices. And it's virtual. This is going to be a hybrid meeting, but if we want to, we would need to identify a location. I mean, I'm happy to host it at Prodigy Coffee, but I don't want to make that decision, right? I want this to be whoever from this group is able to join and participate. You know, I'm happy to provide the technology so that it can be a virtual, like a hybrid meeting, I hope, because I don't know if every location. Jules, do you? I mean, I'm just throwing this out as a thought. I know we've hosted meetings at Focus Points before. Do you have the ability for a hybrid if we need it?
Yeah, we could host a hybrid in one of the classrooms and in the conference room, if that would be helpful.
Okay.
Happy to do that. So yep, that's available. Also, I was gonna say, when you guys post this on your social media, we'll repost whatever you post there. And then we know a couple participants in 80216 who expressed interest, so we'll email them the link from the website.
Great.
So they can learn more about it.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, the normal board that is in place now, where do they meet?
At
currently?
our offices.
At your offices, and they also do it hybrid.
And it's a hybrid, yeah. So it's both in person and virtual.
Okay, well, I think this person, if they're truly interested, would make the effort to get there. If they are truly interested in becoming a board member, that they would make that effort. And there's, you know, we have the GS connector. We have several ways for folks to get there. And I think they're capable of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So either at the National Western or at Focus Points within the next month is are the two suggestions.
The other thought I have, I really like the idea of National Western. NETC has the new connector vehicle, and maybe they could help with transportation if that's a barrier for someone getting to National Western. You know, it's a little bit hard to find it, so that might be a partnership to invest in, of offering people a ride to the meetings too, if there's an idea.
And Gail, to your point, I mean, we could just pick a date that's at the end of March. And again, I'm happy to open up the office and do a Saturday morning and bring coffee and donuts or bagels. You know, just I want the time that works best for the community member that might be joining the discussion that we're going to host.
So Angela, I know you were the one that had made the suggestion of having it out in the community. Would you be comfortable sort of amending that idea to have it if we sort of offer transportation through the connector?
And A put some locations in the chat as well. I mean, I can certainly reach out to those entities. I don't believe that the rec center, I shouldn't say this as a fact, but if they have hybrid capabilities, because we want to offer both virtual and in person. I know when I've attended meetings at the rec centers, they've been in person and not virtual in nature. Project Angel Heart, though, I do believe does have capabilities because we posted a CAC Plus meeting last fall in their boardroom, and I can certainly reach out to them pretty easily. But also Focus Point, Jules offered to host it at Focus Points too. And
it seems like there are 3 people who are suggesting the National Western. So how about if we're going to make a suggestion, maybe we'll do a little poll. And just because I know we're running late, and we'll do a little poll. We'll ask people to come back, and then we'll go from the poll and so that we can get the postcard out. And then, Anthony, would it be reasonable to think, thanks, Jules. Is it reasonable to have names back of people who are interested by the next meeting? Because that's the March meeting.
Names of individuals who want to join the meeting?
No, who are interested in applying for the position?
Yeah, they would, we would probably put a March 31st or even an April 15th deadline. Don't like that date, April 15th, it is tax day. But, you know, because then again, Romaine will be able to send us those names before our April CAC meeting, which would, the date for that is April the 26th. So.
Okay, so we'll work back from that. We'll do a little poll on the location, and we'll make sure that all the options are there. And then we'll get the mailer ready. We'll ask you to give us feedback on language or any other sort of edits you'd like to the mailer itself. And then we'll move forward and try to make it as uncomplicated as possible. And anybody who would also, we'll put a note in the poll or the survey about anybody who would like to join at the orientation meetings to help give some inspiration or answer any questions that you have as a CAC member to anybody who's interested in applying. Sandra will look to you as well because you are a board member, and your view would be very important. Anything else we need to cover for tonight? I know we're 5 minutes over, I apologize, but I think we covered a lot tonight. So again, thank you very much for your participation. We look forward to hearing from you between now and the next meeting at the end of March, but we'll certainly see you at the end of March. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night,
Good night.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.